Akash. I'm going to talk about the US dollar and Chinese conundrum today, on why US dollar is so very powerful currency in the world today, and uh, will there be, and what is this trade war that is happening between China and US, and with so much of debts which is floating around, US debt which is floating around, will the dollar lose its sheen at any given point of time? Will it crash? And all that kind of stuff, right? So to understand, so the first and foremost obviously would be that why is US dollar such a powerful currency in the market today? For primarily four different reasons. Number one is it is oil, a petrodollar is the first one. And then the second one is US dollar is the reserve currency. It is considered to be the reserve currency. It is the international currency. It is accepted as international currency in the entire world, and all the transactions are being done on the US dollar. 60% of all the central banks in the world are holding US dollar deposits, US dollar reserves. That's the second one. Number three is most of the countries' currencies are backed by the US dollar. Number four is a lot of treasury notes, US debts are being held by the different countries world over. So primarily because of these four different reasons, US dollar is the most powerful currency in the world today. So let's discuss each one of these things, right? I'll first start with the oil, because that's where the entire game started. Now, until 1971, US currency was, it was a gold standard, gold-backed US currency. So, which means that every $100 bill printed $100 bill will have an $100 worth of gold, which is actually stashed away, and that will stand as guarantee for the piece of paper, right? Now, in 1971, what happened was the Vietnam War. US had fought the Vietnam War, and a lot of its budget had been, kind of driven towards the defense expenditure, and it had to print a lot of currency at that point of time. So when it wanted to print a lot of currency, it also did not want to back it up with gold. It didn't have so much of gold available. So what Nixon did was that he moved away from the gold standard currency into a fiat currency. The fiat currency meaning you just print the currency and then it has got nothing to back it physically, right? So, but then there has to be something that, like how will the world recognize the dollar then? I mean, the dollar would not be would just be a piece of paper, and nobody will accept it in the international market. So, it had to have a standing of its own. So that's when actually Nixon realized that the next if you move away from the yellow metal, it's actually the black gold which is going to rule the world, which is oil, crude oil. So, so straight away there was a deal with OPEC, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, the rich Middle Eastern countries. So, which was primarily, the OPEC was initially founded by 5 different Middle Eastern countries: Venezuela, Kuwait, Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and then Iran. And of course, there were many other countries which joined OPEC later on. A deal saying that US will pick up around 25% of the OPEC's oil produce, and in return OPEC had to sign a deal where, in such a way that any other country which is buying crude oil from OPEC has to pay in American dollars, has to pay in US dollars. So with that deal, it kind of where all the countries basically that crude oil became a very, very important commodity. So for all the like right from automobile for transportation, and then for all the industrial purposes, crude oil is a very, very important commodity to run the industry and everything, right? So month after month they will have to buy crude from OPEC. So because OPEC basically sells about 60% of the world's oil is being sold from by OPEC countries at OPEC. So all the countries will line up over there to buy, and then if they have to buy oil from there, then they will have to trade only with the US dollars. So which means they'll have to accumulate US dollars. They will have to buy US dollar either in the market, or they will have to trade with US, and then they will have to do a lot of exporting, and then they'll get US dollars, which they can build it up as reserves. So with this one trick, it was able to actually become it became a little bit stronger country. Now from there this whole thing started, and all the countries actually they started accumulating US dollars, right? And either they will buy it from the world market directly, or otherwise they will actually start exporting a lot of a lot of commodities to the US. And US also, it was working out very, very well for them, cost effective for them, because most of the imports that they were doing across the world, it was working out much more cheaper instead of manufacturing it in house. So they were able to get things at a much more cheaper rate. Okay, and so it was suiting US, and it was suiting the other countries also, because they were able to get a lot of US dollars in return. And then with that they will be able to trade, and then with the OPEC, and they'll buy crude oil. Now, apart from the crude oil, for all other international trade also with other countries, they started actually accepting US dollar as the de facto international currency. So everybody started trading with that currency, and it became very, very powerful. Now, once it started becoming that powerful and everybody had to have a lot of dollar reserves, they also they started going away from the gold standard, and then they started backing their currency with the greenbacks, with the US dollar. So now India also, apparently India was also a gold standard currency for a long time, and then now we have about $486 billion reserves with us, which is close to $500 billion. So we have backed our Indian rupee on the US dollar. So and with very little, we have only about $30 billion worth of gold reserves with us. So can think about it. So almost $500 billion of dollar reserves we have, and only about $30 billion of gold reserves is what actually we are having. Physical gold is what we are having. So our currency is also backed with the US currency. And similarly, most other countries, all the emerging nations and all the developed countries, most of the developed countries, all of them have got a lot of dollar deposits. And as I said, about 60% of the central banks world over, they are having forex currencies. They are having is the US dollar. The next highest is 20% is euro currency. In fact, euro was actually picking up really well. It was becoming a very good competitor to the dollar. But the pigs, the nations, the Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, and Spain, when they when their debt to GDP ratio started going very, very high, and when they went bust, so that is when actually euro currency started declining, and US dollar continues to remain where it is. Now, the fourth one we're talking about is the national, the reserves, and the debt, right? So US debt is about, totally around $23 trillion is the US debt. And out of the $23 trillion, about 70% of that is held in-house, within America. And about 30% of them is lying outside. And out of that, about $1.15 trillion is with Japan. and $1.06 trillion is with China. So both these Asian giants put together, they actually hold about 32% of the US debt. Out of the $6.93 trillion, they hold about 32% of the debt with them, which is a huge number, right? So in fact, actually so China holds about 1.07 trillion, Japan about 1.5 trillion. The next is Brazil about 307 billion, and United Kingdom about 301 billion. So and then the remaining is much more lesser than that. So now, with this, basically what happens is, since they're all holding so much of dollars, and so not only the forex reserves they are holding, and then the debt also, they are holding a huge amount of debt. So with all these things, basically that US has become extremely strong nation. It is primarily it is not only the militarily, it is a very, very powerful nation, and also by the electorally also, it is supposedly a very stable nation. So people want to world over, they do not expect US to crash at all, and the dollar not to crash. Now, there was one little change actually which happened with the OPEC after a while. I mean, initially they signed a deal for that they'll pick up 25% of the oil produced. Then later on, US started producing its own oil. It has both the crude oil as well as the shale oil. So ever since it started producing its own oil, it actually changed the deal, and then it started providing military aid and strategic aid to all the oil-rich countries. So with this, basically what happens is it's just the might, right? So they basically provide they are like the protection, the big brother. They stand like a big brother to all these oil rich countries. We will we'll come to your rescue when you need us. So that's exactly how they are trying to play the role. Now with the with the debt, actually the US debt to GDP ratio is another thing which we need to understand a little. So it is about, I mean, any country actually the debt to GDP ratio is a very, very critical and very important kind of parameter which has to be it's a fundamental this thing which is required for the economy. So now if the debt to GDP ratio is very high, so now if we talk in terms of the US, it is about 110% is the debt to GDP ratio. So around $23 trillion is the debt, and around $21 trillion is the nominal GDP, or about 18.87 trillion is the real GDP. So it is about 110 to 115%, look whichever way. Now, the tipping point generally is about 77%. So anything, if it is within the 77%, if the debt to GDP ratio is maintained, then it is supposedly a very good nation, and it is able to manage. So which means that, I mean, it produces more than what it owes to the to its debtors. So basically that when in case of 110%, if it crosses 100%, what it really means is that it is producing much less than year on year. It is producing much lesser than what it owes to the to its investors. So which is not a good sign. So if you look at it as a typical analogy, so any bank actually when it has to loan to somebody, then it will actually look at the paying potential of the person. And if the person has got a better income, then it will actually it knows that the loan given to the person will come back safely, and it is a financially a viable loan to be given to this person, right? So that is how actually the loans are being given. Now, if the income is not good, so in this context, actually the GDP of the country is almost equivalent to the income. So if the GDP, the produce is much lesser than what you owe to your investors, then people are not going to be happy. So that is actually the typical. So if you look at US, I mean, in that way, actually, there's the actual debt to GDP ratio is a little tricky. This thing. So Japan has basically got 228% of this thing, debt to GDP ratio, but um, its complete entire debt is being held within Japan. So there's not a problem for Japan that people will try to this, right? Now India is also, I mean, China's debt to GDP ratio is much better off. It's about 57%, and India is about 67%. So as I said, the tipping point is about 77%. So as long as you are within that, then actually you are in a much better stage, right? So now, if the um, we talked about oil, so yeah. So now the next thing is about even the oil also. As I said, I mean, who are all the major oil producers of the world? US is actually producing about 18% of the share of the world total. And then next is Saudi Arabia with about 12%. Russia is about 11%. Canada is about 5%, China 5%, and Iraq 5%. So these are all the different countries actually who produce oil. And there's also, the next important thing is in terms of the reserves. Like how many, how much reserves does each country have? Yes, actually, it's the number one, huge reserves that it is having. It's basically about five. It's about 727 capacity, 727 million barrels. It can actually this thing. So that there are about 4 salt caverns on the coast of the Gulf of Mexico, which stores all this oil, and about 4.5 months of import. It can store. It can store in its reserves. That is called as it's called as the Strategic Petroleum Reserves, SPR. And similarly, China is the second world's largest reserve. It holds about 511 million barrels. Japan holds about 324 million barrels. South Korea holds about 146 million barrels. Spain holds about 120 million barrels. India holds about 39.1 million barrels, which is equal to about 9 days worth of imports, oil imports. Okay, so now it's spoken about that. Okay, now the other thing is also that the forex reserves. So US, I mean, China is it is not only we talked about the debts. So the forex reserves, if you look at it, China has got about 3.4 trillion dollars worth of forex, US dollars with it. Japan has got about 1.4 trillion dollars. Switzerland has got about 850 billion dollars, and Russia about 562 billion dollars. India about 473 billion dollars, which we already spoke about. Now China has, so which means that China has got about $3.5 trillion of dollars of this thing, which is worth the forex, which has got with it. So it would not be that easy for China to now. Why are all this trade wars happening, and what is this tariff war, etc., and all those things? Right? Now, so China is trying to dump. So ever since actually they went into, I mean, US started kind of importing a lot of these commodities from China. It is the manufacturing within the US actually became very there are not enough countries, there are not enough companies just manufacturing a lot of items in the US, and which is why their unemployment rates are going up. So now Trump is trying to address that unemployment rate, and then it's trying to if it tries to put a kind of tariff, increase the tariff on the Chinese products which is coming into the US, then what will happen is the companies actually which are importing this the Chinese products, so for them the landing cost is going to increase, and if the landing cost is going to increase, their margins will start reducing, and then at some point of time actually they will start considering that it is much better to produce in America rather than importing all these things from China. Then there will be a lot of companies which will start manufacturing many of the commodities, and it will also give rise to a lot of employment opportunities within America. So that is primarily what it is trying to do. But then for China, since its exports are getting affected, China is actually trying to also put tariffs on the US imports on all the items that is being imported from the US. Okay. Now China, so by the way, we have to also understand now that how much is the trade between the China and the US, right? So China exports about $539 billion worth of products, and it imports about imports about $120 billion worth of trade it's doing. So there is a trade deficit of about $419.2 billion. And what does it, what are the primarily, what all does it export to the US? Is electrical machinery, which is about $152 billion, machinery, which is about $117 billion, furnitures and bedding about $35 billion, toys and sport equipments about $27 billion, plastics about $19 billion. So all this put together is about $539 billion. So because of these things, actually, it is there's a little bit of a tension between China and US that they both are trying to this thing, and which kind of plays havoc with all the world markets as well. So because the world markets are all driven by this thing, and US being the world's biggest consumer, so US consumes. US is the biggest customer for the entire world, and US if US actually kind of if US dollar goes down, so most of the countries actually who are backing their currencies against the US dollars all their currencies will start getting affected, and the oil prices will start going up, and that is not a good sign. And the international trade between all other countries also will get affected, because the US reserve currency will start will no more be there. Okay, and then the debt actually, and most importantly, if you think about it, all the money that all the forex reserves that all the countries are having, okay, all of them will start all of them will start getting devalued, because the dollar starts weakening. So which is why actually it's a little conundrum. So none of these countries world over in the world, none of the countries will try to do anything which can harm US and which can harm the US currency. So the US currency will continue to remain wherever it is today, and then it will continue to keep growing. Okay, there can be some other competitors which can come in, like euro currency and other things, but then it can't really kind of bring down the US dollar. So that is a de facto currency which will continue to remain over there. So that's basically what I wanted to share today.